The night was dark. The sound of footsteps echoing through the stone walls of the Macedonian palace was growing faster with every passing minute. The queen was about to give birth, but this was not an ordinary birth, because that night it was said that strange events were happening across the ancient world. Sudden lights in the sky, distant thunder striking, and strange signs seen in sacred temples. People did not see this as coincidence. According to them, the birth of great leaders always came with signs. And the child born that night would one day change the fate of the world. That child's name would be Alexander the Great. The Kingdom of Macedon was a harsh and warrior society located in the north of the Greek world at that time. Its capital, Pella, did not possess the grandeur of great empires, but the people who lived there knew war well. And at the head of this kingdom, there was an extraordinary leader, King Philip II of Macedon. Philip was not an ordinary king. In his youth, he had lived as a hostage in Greek cities. There, he had closely observed his enemies, and when he returned, he decided to change the rules of war. Philip's greatest achievement was completely redesigning his army. Soldiers equipped with long spears stood shoulder to shoulder. This formation turned into a deadly machine that broke enemy lines like a wall. This new system of warfare was the phalanx. And thanks to the phalanx army, Philip turned Macedon, once seen as weak, into a feared military power. But he had a greater goal in mind: to unite all the Greek city-states, and then march east to wage war against the Persian Empire. But that night, a child not yet born would change the fate of these plans. Alexander's mother, Olympias, was very different from the other women in the palace. She was not just a queen. She had mysterious beliefs. She performed rituals, believed in prophecies, and thought she could communicate with the gods. And shortly before Alexander was born, she had a dream. In her dream, a lightning bolt fell from the sky and struck directly into her womb. This was not an ordinary dream. In the ancient world, lightning represented the power of the gods, especially the power of Zeus. King Philip also had a dream that same night. He saw himself placing a seal on his wife's womb, and on that seal was a lion. The court seers were summoned, the dreams were interpreted, and the result was summarized in a single sentence: "This child will not be ordinary. He will shake the world." Finally, the awaited moment arrived. On a hot summer night in 356 BC, Queen Olympias gave birth to a baby boy. When the news reached the palace, King Philip was at the front. But when the news of the birth reached him, another piece of news arrived the same day. Philip's army had won a great victory, and on that same day, the famous Temple of Artemis in Greece had burned down. People in the ancient world did not see these events as coincidence. According to them, the goddess Artemis had not been able to protect her temple that night because she was somewhere else. She was witnessing the birth of a newborn child. This story was told for years, and people began to believe this. This child had been chosen by fate. Alexander spent his childhood in the palace. But this palace was not a comfortable place. Here, power was everything. Philip often went to war. When he returned with victory, great feasts were held in the palace. But these feasts were also dangerous, because the palace was full of intrigue. Royal courts are never safe places, especially the courts of powerful kings, or even more dangerous. And Alexander learned this at a very young age. He had to be strong. An event that happened while Alexander was still a child changed his destiny. One day, a large and wild horse was brought to the palace. It had black fur. Its eyes were filled with fear, but at the same time, it was incredibly powerful. The man who brought the horse wanted to sell it, but there was a problem. No one could control this horse. Everyone who tried was thrown to the ground. The horse kicked wildly, refusing to let anyone ride it. King Philip eventually grew angry. He thought the horse was useless. Just as he was about to send it away, young Alexander stepped forward. He was only a child, but his eyes were locked onto the horse. Everyone thought he would fail, but Alexander had noticed something. The horse was afraid of its own shadow. This detail had escaped everyone else. Alexander turned the horse towards the sun, so its shadow fell behind it. Then he slowly approached. He reached out his hand. The horse calmed down. Within minutes, Alexander mounted it, and before everyone's eyes, he managed to control the wild horse. Silence fell over the palace. King Philip looked at his son and said the words that would go down in history. "My son, Macedon is too small for you." The name of this horse would be Bucephalus, and this horse would stay by Alexander's side throughout his life. As Alexander grew older, his father Philip II of Macedon did not want him to be raised as an ordinary prince. Philip knew very well, a king does not win only with the sword, but also with the mind. So he did not choose an ordinary teacher for his son. The man he chose would be one of the greatest thinkers of the ancient world, Aristotle. When Alexander was around 13 years old, his father sent him away from the palace. This place was surrounded by lush green trees, quiet and peaceful, Mieza. Here, Aristotle established a special school for Alexander and a few young nobles. Most of these young men would later become Alexander's most trusted commanders. But at that time, they were just students. Aristotle's lessons were not ordinary. He did not just teach knowledge, he taught them how to think. Here, Alexander learned geography, what the world looked like, medicine, how to heal wounded soldiers, biology, how to understand nature politics, how to rule people, philosophy, what is right and what is wrong. But perhaps most importantly, Aristotle taught him curiosity. This curiosity would set Alexander apart from ordinary commanders, because he did not only want to fight, he wanted to explore. There was one more thing that changed Alexander's life. A book. This book was the Iliad. This epic told the story of the Trojan War. But for Alexander, it was not just a story. It was a guide, a dream, a destiny. Alexander especially admired one hero, Achilles. Achilles was brave, he was fast, and most importantly, his name was never forgotten. Alexander wanted to be like him, to have a fame that would never die. It is said that Alexander always carried a copy of the Iliad with him. Some even say he kept it under his pillow at night, because that book reminded him who he wanted to become. When Alexander was only 16 years old, his father Philip decided to go on a major campaign, but the kingdom could not be left unattended. So Philip made an unexpected decision. He entrusted the rule of the kingdom temporarily to his son. This was a huge risk because Alexander was still young, but Philip wanted to test him. While Philip was at the front, a tribe rebelled. They believed Macedon was weak. They thought a young prince could not stop them. But they were wrong. Alexander took command of the army. This was his first true test of leadership. The soldiers looked at him. Some were doubtful, some were afraid. But Alexander was not afraid. He gathered his army and marched towards the rebels. The battle was short, but its impact was great. Alexander moved quickly. He was decisive, and he never hesitated. The rebellion was crushed. But Alexander did not stop there. He founded a new city in the region where the tribes had rebelled, and he gave that city his own name. This was the first sign of his character. When he won, he did not settle for victory alone. He left a mark. As Alexander grew, his relationship with his father Philip became increasingly complicated. Philip was powerful, successful, and with each passing year, he achieved new victories. But these successes became a problem for Alexander, because the more Philip conquered, the fewer lands would remain for Alexander in the future. One day, during a feast in the palace, Philip was celebrating a great victory. Guests were drinking, laughter filled the hall. And at that moment, Philip took a new wife. His new bride was a Macedonian noblewoman. This marriage had a dangerous meaning for Alexander, because a child born from this union could become a rival for the throne. As the feast continued, the drinks kept flowing, and finally, the tension exploded. One of the relatives of Philip's new wife stood up and spoke loudly, "Now we will have a true Macedonian heir." These words were spoken in front of everyone, and it was a direct insult. Alexander stood up. He was furious because this statement questioned his legitimacy. Alexander shouted, "Then what am I?" Silence filled the hall, but it did not end there. Philip stood up. He was angry. He grabbed his sword and walked toward his son. But he was drunk. After a few steps, he fell to the ground. Alexander looked at him and said the words that would go down in history. "The man who wants to conquer Asia cannot even cross a table." This moment completely shattered the bond between father and son. After this incident, Alexander left the palace for a while. He went to another region with his mother, Olympias. But things in the palace were beginning to change. Philip was still powerful, but his enemies were increasing, and the palace was becoming a more dangerous place. No one knew at the time, but very soon, one of the most important nights in Macedonian history would take place. One night, at a wedding, a man would draw his sword, and a single strike would change the course of history forever.